Peace family, what is going on? It's Ben. Welcome back to another yoga practice. For today's class, I have 2 blocks, but you don't need anything besides yourself and your practice space. We'll go ahead and get right into things in downward facing dog. As you come into your down dog, as usual, use this as your position to begin finding some new space. Know that you can find this space through movement. Oh, hey, mosquito, what's going on? You gonna take some of my blood? Through movement or through stillness. So depth can be achieved through kind of moving around, finding fluidity, but depth can also be achieved through maybe finding a strong pose and then taking a few deep breaths into that pose. We'll have a few more breaths here. Just find yourself in the present moment and use physical sensation to be the force that really brings you into that present moment. And then from your down dog, take a deep bend into the knees. And when I say a deep bend, I mean a very deep bend into the knees. Almost as much as you can. Look forward. And then roll yourself into high plank. So hips up to the sky, spine unfurls. And then eventually we're in this plank pose. From this plank pose, take an inhale. Exhale, scoop the hips back, downward facing dog. From down dog, lift the right leg up to the sky. And then step the right foot up to the top of the mat. Once the right foot lands, go ahead and drop the left knee down. And this is where I'm going to grab a block for anjaneyasana. The block is not required. Just if you have it, go ahead and drop it under your left thigh. You can look up at the screen and place the block at an angle so that the flat part hits the bottom of your thigh. From there, you can keep the toes tucked or you can release the top of the foot to press down. Bring the arms overhead and grab opposite hand to elbow. Once you find that connection, and I'm just going to fix my mic real quick because it got unclipped. But once you find that connection of hand to elbow, use it to expand a little bit more into the pose. Keep finding the block with your left thigh. So keep pushing down into the block with your thigh to find a boundary, and that should give you more space and freedom and stability to expand through the upper body. Stay here for a few more breaths, not rushing it, really just feeling into the opening in the front of the left hip. And if you don't have yoga blocks, again, you don't need them, but this does feel good. So maybe this video is the motivating factor for you to go and spend those $10 on some yoga blocks. They don't need to be nice ones. They could be cheap ones. I personally like the cork ones, but they're a little bit more expensive. Okay, bring the hands down and take a pyramid pose. So this is where I'm going to keep my hands on blocks, pull the hips back in space, and find a deep stretch. I'm trying to stay high onto my back toes, so I'm not sinking the back foot down to the mat. I'm actually lifting up so that I can then fold further forward. A couple breaths here. Try to be pretty light in the hands. I'm going to come onto fingertips myself. A little bend in the front knee often allows you to find a deeper fold with a longer spine. Take an inhale. Take an exhale. Bend into the right knee. Plant the left hand down on the ground. Twist the right hand up to the sky. And keep twisting up, 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 and around until you maybe connect right hand to left foot or ankle for a quad stretch. If the quad stretch isn't there for you today, either place a block or a prop under your left hand to help you get closer, or what you can do is do the same pose without the bind, and that'll give you all the same openings. It just might be a little less satisfying without the bind, but we don't really practice for satisfaction. We practice for presence. We practice for self-improvement. We practice to get to know ourselves and our bodies, and maybe even our spirits. Go ahead and release the bind if you have it. Bring both hands back to the ground to help guide you to Skandasana lunge at the back of your mat. Carry the hips back in space toward your left ankle as you straighten through the right leg. Option to float the hands, but you don't have to. Lift the hips a couple inches off the floor, even if you have the flexibility to sink down. This will help you kind of create a little strength in the inner thighs. Take an inhale. Exhale, feel free to use hands to help you crawl to the top of the mat. Plant the hands down, step back to plank pose. From plank pose, hold here for 5, 4, 3, 2. On 1, take chaturanga and hold chaturanga for 5, 4, 3, 2. On 1, rise up to plank, drop knees and forearms, shift the hips back in space, look forward, pull yourself forward, upward facing dog. Engage the glutes as you do so, roll the shoulders back, and point the toes behind you. Downward facing dog, hips press back. As you get to your downward facing dog, take a deep breath in. Exhale out. Lift the right leg up to the sky, and then step your right foot through to the top of the mat. Drop the right knee down. And once again, if you have a block, grab the block and place it at an angle so that it can support your right thigh. Often props used in this manner, and go ahead and grab opposite elbows above your head. Often props used in this manner are seen as like a crutch. But for me, I really see them as opportunities to actually find new experience and new space in a familiar posture. Many of us have done this lunge 1,000 times without the block. So with the block, use that familiarity to then grow. Use that as a boundary to find new space. Notice the freedom you have in the upper body to create as much of a back bend as you want to. But we're not just bending back, it's like we're lifting the spine up and over a beach ball, or almost like javelin. Or no, not javelin, what's that sport? Pole vaulting. Pole vaulting, we're lifting up and over the boundary. Go ahead and release the hands down. Option to use 2 blocks, hips pull back in space. Pyramid pose. You know, I said javelin because they both involve a long pole, I'm pretty sure. But used in different ways. Keep lengthening through the spine, keep drawing the collarbones forward. Take an inhale. Take an exhale. Start to shift to twisted lizard lunge. So right hand comes down, right knee comes down. I like to bring my left foot wider on the mat as I rainbow up my left arm up and around. Left hand to right leg. And I've been really enjoying, instead of grabbing the toes and flexing my toe, or excuse me, pointing my toes up, I've been enjoying grabbing onto, binding onto my right ankle, and then flexing the toes back toward the shin. It's been feeling really strong and very interesting in terms of a variation in my body. Breath in. Breath out. Release the bind if you have it. Both hands come back to the mat. Skandasana, lunge back up your mat. Again, stay active in the legs and stay aware in your feet. Press into the ground to lift up. Maybe you can lift the hips a couple millimeters. That mosquito got me, I didn't see it. Shows how much I'm in my monkey mind today, right? Mind is scattered all over the place. Got to keep bringing it back to the present moment, and that's the practice. Shift forward, plant the hands down, step back to plank pose. From plank pose, take an inhale. Chaturanga on the exhale, lower halfway, hold for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Inhale back up to plank. Exhale, drop knees, drop forearms, look forward. Inhale, pull yourself through. Up dog. Exhale, roll yourself back. Down dog. From down dog, inhale, lift the right leg to the sky, 3-legged dog. Exhale, step the right foot all the way through. Same variation of the lunge. Go ahead and grab a block and place it at an angle underneath your left thigh. If you don't have the block, no worries. Just meet us in your strong anjaneyasana, low crescent lunge. You can do what you like with the arms. I'm binding onto my elbows again. So do that with me if it feels comfortable for you. And then release. Pyramid pose, hands down, hips pull back. Stretch. Again, high onto the left toes to stay active and to stay in it. Folding from length. Then move into your revolved lizard lunge. Left hand down, right arm circles to catch left foot or ankle. Be curious with your gaze. Notice where your eyes fall. Is it down on the mat? Is it over to your right? Is it even looking behind you or above you? There's no necessarily correct way to place your gaze, but it's worth being aware of. Release that bind. Skandasana, lunge back of your mat. Carry yourself through the waves. Not rushing. Top of the mat. Plant the hands. Step back. Plank pose. Let's hold it this time for 5, 4, 3, 2, on 1. Chaturanga for 5, 4, 3, 2, on 1. Up to plank pose for 5, 4, 3, 2, on 1. Drop knees, drop forearms, shift hips back. And then pull through upward facing dog for 5, 4. Keep breathing. 3, 2, 1. Downward facing dog for 5, 4, 3, 2, on 1. Left leg to the sky, 3-legged dog. Exhale, step through to the top of the mat. Drop the knee down. Grab a block if you have it. Plop it under your right leg, right thigh, and then open up into the lunge. Sorry, not sorry for providing those 5 counts for the chaturanga and the up dog. You know, I sometimes think that the poses that we're maybe most likely to flow through very quickly are the poses that might also be worthwhile to spend some time in and learn how to control with more calmness and more attentiveness. Pyramid pose. Release the arms down. Hips pull back. I'm continuing to use the blocks, but you may find that as you open more space, you enjoy finding the ground instead of the 2 blocks. Explore at your own desire. It's the nice thing about these YouTube classes is that you can follow the class, and at any point, you can carve your own path. Revolved lizard lunge. Go ahead and drop the knee down, open into the twist. Release and head towards Skandasana lunge, back of the mat. Try to flex your left quad muscles. Head to the top of the mat, where we'll step back for plank pose, and we'll hold there for 5, 4, 3, 2, on 1. Hold chaturanga for 5, 4, 3, 2, on 1. Back up to plank pose for 5, 4, 3, 2, on 1. Drop knees and forearms, hips shift back. Inhale, pull yourself forward, upward facing dog. Exhale, roll it back, downward facing dog. On the inhale, lift the left leg up to the sky, 3-legged dog. Exhale, step left foot to the top of the mat, this time right into warrior 2. Starting on the left side this time to switch it up. Give yourself the chance to land here. aware of the breath flowing through you. Triangle pose. Extend through the left leg. Reach the left hand forward and then drop in a triangle. I'm actually going to take this triangle pose with my hands at my hips because it provides interesting context into the awareness of my pelvis. So I can really feel the tilt. I can feel the hinge. I can feel my hips in the pose. It's something I like to do when it's my first time in triangle pose for the day. And honestly, most days I do at least one triangle pose, even if it's just by itself and not really part of a practice. It kind of just hits one of those spots. You know what I mean? Take an inhale, look up. Exhale to warrior two, rebend the left knee. Inhale, reverse your warrior. Balancing half moon, start to lean forward, left fingertips connect to a block. Open up into your half moon pose. Try to keep lifting your right thigh up. Listen carefully. We'll roll it down into a Shiva squat. Use your left hand on the ground to help you get there. So right hip rolls down. Right knee tucks behind the left knee. And then we're balancing in a Shiva squat. Try to find a relatively long spine. Give yourself a couple breaths in your single-legged squat. And then lower into a two-legged posture chair pose. Right foot lands next to the left foot. Arms reach up to the sky. Hips are sitting back in an imaginary chair. Take an inhale. Exhale slowly to forward fold. Relax the head down. First time in a forward fold today. Bend into both knees and then stand up all the way. Arms come up on your inhale. Hands to heart center on the exhale. Dancer's pose with the right foot down. So go ahead and loop the left hand back to connect with the left foot or ankle. Again, I've been enjoying this version of dancer's pose, similar to what I said earlier in revolved lizard lunge, where I've been enjoying grabbing onto, binding onto the left ankle instead of the foot, and then flexing my toes back toward the shin instead of pointing my foot. Regardless, a few breaths here in Natarajasana, dancer's pose. Go ahead and release and see how softly you can place the left foot back down on the mat, maybe not even making a sound. Go right into dancer, other side. Right hand loops back to connect with the right foot or ankle. Once you find the bind, left hand up to the sky, inhale there. Exhale, hinge, kick, and find space. And slowly release. Once again, see how softly you can place your right foot on the ground. On your inhale, arms sweep to the sky. Exhale, forward folds. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, hands to the ground. Step both feet back. Hold plank pose for 5, 4, 3, 2. On 1, chaturanga. Hold there for 5, 4, 3, 2. On 1, back up to plank for 5, 4, 3, 2. On one, drop knees and forearms, hips pull back. Come through, upward facing dog for 5, 4, 3, 2. Bring the chest forward through the shoulders. 1, downward facing dog. Lift the right leg up to the sky, 3-legged dog. Step through the top of your mat, warrior 2. Left heel spins down. Arms open up. I gotta say, these mosquitoes are getting a nice meal out here today. I must have that sweet blood. Breathe in your warrior 2. This time I'm doing warrior 2 with the palms flipped up, just to help open, externally rotate through the shoulders. And then begin to head to triangle pose. Extend through right leg. Reach right arm forward, or maybe grab onto hips and let that awareness hinge you into trikonasana. One thing hands to hips also does is it prevents us from kind of dumping into the pose. We're forced to be very active through the legs and even through the core. If you check, the core is probably working. Couple more breaths here. Inhale. Exhale, warrior 2. Inhale, reverse warrior. Exhale, balancing half moon, and then keep breathing at your own pace as you enter the posture. From here, we will close off the posture, pulling and rolling the left leg down, all the way tucking the left leg in for a Shiva squat as we balance on the right leg in our single-legged squat, challenging our ankle, challenging our balance, challenging our stability. And then go ahead and land the left foot next to the right for chair pose, Utkatasana, arms up. Stay in your breath. Forward fold. Relax the head down. Shake out the legs. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, rise all the way up to standing. Arms up. Exhale, hands pull into heart center. Relax the arms down by your sides and roll the neck around several times. Go slowly. Go at your own pace. Once you've loosened things up a little bit, go ahead and reach the arms up. Take an inhale, lift the heart. Exhale, forward folds. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, hands to the mat. Step back to plank pose. Hold plank pose for 5, 4, 3, 2. Chaturanga on 1 for 5, 4, 3, 2. Back up to plank pose. Drop knees and forearms. Pull yourself through upward facing dog for 5, 4, 3, 2. On 1, downward facing dog. From downward facing dog, Let's find a seated position where we'll join for some breath practice to close out today. Of course, if you're ready to end the practice now, you could always pause the video, bow out, and move on. But I recommend maybe staying with me for an extra couple minutes as we tune into our breath before we head out into the world. If you have a block, you sit on a block to elevate your hips above your knees. Otherwise, just do what you can to sit tall. You could even sit in a chair. You could even lay down if you like to lay down. Feel the crown of the head lifting, spine is tall. Take an inhale. Take another inhale to find the top. Pause. Exhale. Inhale. Inhale again to find the top. Pause. Exhale. Two more. Inhale. Inhale again, find the top. Pause. Exhale. Inhale. Inhale again, find the top. Pause. Exhale. Breathe at a calm pace, and let's find about a minute in a seated meditation here. Feel free to bring your awareness to sit calmly at the third eye center. I'll end the practice with 3 ohms. Join me if you would like to, or just receive. Om is just our symbol of pure consciousness, the symbol of the manifestation of something greater, whether that greater power for you is the universe or the source or nature or God, or just that divine, sacred consciousness. I humbly bow to each one of you. Thanks for joining me. As always, it's a blessing to share space. Hope you have a great rest of your day, and I hope to see you again soon. Until next time, peace and love.